Okay, so let's recite together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Homage to the sublime, the victorious, the totally self-enlightened one. Okay, so welcome everyone. Very happy to see you all. Okay, so if possible, I encourage you to please switch on your video so we can see each other. And it will be very helpful for me to see you, so I know who I'm talking to and I can see your reaction. And then sometimes that from your facial expression, I can see that if the information is going through or if there are some doubt or if you're understanding or not. So it's very helpful for me. Okay, so last week we have decided that we would introduce some new information while we are doing the revision. So today I would like to first introduce you to some of the topics that are coming up in chapter 3, because in chapter 1 we have already seen all types of cittas, and we have seen all types of Cetasikas in chapter 2, and in chapter 3 we are actually going to look at again cittas, but it is an analysis by way of different topics, so which we are going to add some of this information into our revision as well. So now in chapter 3, it is actually divided into 6 sections, which is analysis of cittas by way of Vedana. So we are going to look at the cittas in terms of Vedana, and we are going to look at the cittas in terms of roots, and by way of function, dwara, doors, aramana, objects, and votu, the basis. So these are actually the information that we are going to look at chapter 3. But since we are doing a revision now, so what I was thinking while preparing the slides for today was to include some of this information into the revision. So it's like we're introducing some of the, doing some revisions of some of the cittas, and at the same time, introduce some of the sections of of chapter 3, because they are related actually. So that's what we are going to do today. Okay, so last week, we have already finished with the combination of citta and Cetasikas of the Dosamūla citta, the 8 Dosamūla citta. We have seen each Dosamūla citta, what kind of Cetasikas associate with them, right? Okay, so today we are going to continue with the other akusala cittas, unwholesome cittas. So let's go with dosa, the Dosamūla cittas. So as a revision, we'll just quickly go through that there are 3 aspects of hatred-rooted consciousness of Dosamūla citta, or aversion-rooted consciousness. So obviously, aversion-rooted consciousness must always associate with aversion, yeah? Must always associate with dosa, yeah? And all kinds of cittas always associate with some kind of Vedana. So mental feeling is also there. And then for Dosamūla citta, it's actually quite straightforward. So it's either prompted or unprompted. So these are the 3 aspects to the 2 Dosamūla citta. Now, in terms of Vedana, we know that there is somanasa, mental pleasure or pleasant mental feeling. Then we have domanasa, displeasure or mental pain or mental displeasant feeling. Then we have upekkha, mental neutrality. And with dosa, with aversion to rooted consciousness, it can only associate with which kind of Vedana? Domanasa, right? So in this case, somanasa, like we cannot be very happily or joyfully angry, right? So it is not compatible. And also when one is angry, the mind always feels unpleasant. or when there is aversion, let's say, because it's not just only anger, as we know. So it can only associate with domanassa. So upekkha and somanassa will not accompany dosamula citta, no? Okay. So the next aspect to dosamula citta is, of course, aversion itself. So this dosa cetasika must always be there. So it's sometimes translated as aversion, as anger, or hatred. But we have to understand that dosa, this word, actually, it means all the different shades of aversion, from the very subtle, just a little bit of dislike or uneasiness or even boredom, a little bit annoyed, irritated, until the very gross level of like rage or hatred, hostility, ferocity. So all these are included in dosa. So dosa can be very little, very subtle, just a little bit, or it can be very gross as well. So we have to remember that when we say dosa, it's not necessarily that we are very angry or hate a lot of hatred, right? So it can be also very little bit dislike or having aversion towards something. Okay, so as a reminder, this we have already seen before, but as a reminder, whenever one is angry, it is like striking someone or striking one's own mind with anger. So this word patiga, actually, it means animosity, collision, or to strike. Now, patiga is defined as a hostile attitude towards a sentient being, can be someone else, some other beings, towards frustration or towards that which give rise to one's frustration, or even towards oneself. And it functions as a basis for fault finding, for negative action, and for not finding a moment of peace or happiness. So when there is dosa, the mind is always not peaceful, not calm, and always being negative and having a negative attitude, no, towards oneself and towards the others as well. So dosa is also described as like fire burning that upon which it itself depends on. So when we are angry, when there is dosa, it feels, we can feel it now. It's like burning. So it's burning one's own mind, burning one's own body as well. So so many times we have heard cases then when people are angry that they can even get heart attack, or so many things can happen. Yeah. And also like this stomach acidity and all these things that are related to anger, to dosa. Okay. All right. So, and the two types of dosamula citta is always accompanied by displeasure, by mental unpleasant feeling, domanassa. It's always associated with aversion, patiga, and it can be either unprompted or it can be prompted. Okay, so that's the two kinds of dosamula citta. So whenever we are sad or depressed, angry, afraid, bored, or any kind of the different shades of dosa, whatever it may be, it always happened with these two types of citta. Only two types of dosamula citta. Okay, so now let's go to see what kind of cetasikas associate with a dosamula citta. First, let's remember in the dosa group cetasikas, which cetasikas are there? So in the dosa group, we have dosa, of course, aversion. We have isa, envy and jealousy, maccariya, stinginess, and kukucha, remorse. So as you see here, this dosa group, it is an occasional, right? Occasional akusala cetasika. So that means depends on the situation. Sometimes they arise, sometimes they don't. So if it is an akusala universal cetasika, then any kind of akusala citta will always associate with them. Remember, that's moha, delusion, ahirika, anotapa, and moral fearlessness, and moral what was the Shamelessness, yes, thank you. Yes, moral fearlessness and shamelessness, and also restlessness, right? Uddhacca. So those four are the universal akusala cetasikas. And now this dosa group, which obviously associate with the dosamula citta, they are four of them, occasionals. Sometimes they are, sometimes not. So dosa itself, then we have isa, envy or jealousy. So that's the inability to appreciate the success or the good fortune or the good news of others, right? So that's isa, envy or jealousy. Then we have maccariya. Maccariya is the not being able to share what has been obtained by oneself, or even what we think we can obtain. So sometimes the thing is not yet mine, but I think that should be mine, even that. So that also can be the object of maccariya, of stinginess. Okay, and then another cetasika in the dosa cetasika group, and the dosa group, is kukucca, remorse. Now it is said that one can only regret about two things in the whole world. Right? So sometimes we may say, like, well, we can regret about basically everything. So how is it possible that only two things, right? So actually, we can regret what we can be remorsed or regret about are things that we have done wrong, or unwholesome things that we have done in the past, or when there is an opportunity to do good, we didn't do it. So those are the only two things that a person can have remorse towards. So things that we have done or things that we haven't done. Okay, so these ones we have already looked at it in details in chapter 2 when we were looking at the Cetasikas. So we're not going into details now. I think Claudia, let me see in the chat box. Oh, is it possible to slow down? Okay, I'm speaking too fast. All right, okay, I'll slow down. Okay, so okay. Okay, so let's continue now here. So in the dosa dosa group of the Cetasikas, we have 4 Cetasikas here. We have dosa, isa, maccariya, and kukucca. So let's see the objects of each of them. When we have dosa, what can be the object of dosa? What do you think? Anything, right? So the object of dosa can be actually anything that one has aversion to. So it's basically really everything. And how about isa? Envy or jealous. So the object of envy or jealousy, isa, here is actually the success of another person. So others' success. Now, about maccariya, the object is one's own property, because we don't want to share what we have. So that's stinginess. So the object of maccariya is one's own property. And how about kukucca? So as we just said right now, it can be something what has been done or something what has not been done. So those are the objects of these 4 Cetasikas, of these 4. So if the Cetasikas are different, that means, if the objects of these Cetasikas are different, that means they cannot arise together, right? Sometimes, let's see, dosa must always associate with all kinds of dosamula citta, that's for sure. So dosa here, because it is an aversion, then it is possible to associate with both the 2 dosamula citta. And isa, if the object of that dosa is towards other people's success, then it can arise together with dosa. So dosa plus isa in this case. Now, if the object is my own property that I don't want to share with anyone else, then it is possible to arise with dosa and maccariya, right? But isa and maccariya cannot arise together because their object is different. Now, about kukucha as well. So when we are thinking about having aversion towards, oh, I should have done that, I didn't do it when I have the opportunity. When we're thinking about that, there is aversion also, and there is remorse also. But we are not having stinginess or being envy about some other people's things or one's own thing. No, so these ones are not compatible, these three. So they will not arise together. But when they arise together with dosa. So let's take a look at, yes, Edith.
So when we're talking about someone being jealous or remorseful, etc., so then the Cetasika Isa or Kukucha is more prominent, right? Like than dosa, even though they arise together.
Yes, you may say so. Maybe we can say that it is more obvious. Yeah, it's more obvious. Whether it is stronger than dosa or not, I cannot tell, because dosa is also strong, because the aversion towards what I didn't do or what I did is also strong. But because of the object, so kukucha is more obvious and more prominent, we can say, as you said.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's take a look of the first law, Dosamūla citta. What kind of Cetasika is associated there? So let's say the first Dosamūla citta, it must always associate with the 7 universal Cetasikas, that's for sure. Then here, let's look at the occasionals. Occasionals, usually there are 6, but here it is only associated with 5. So we have chanda, the wish to do, because when we are angry, also, actually the mind wants to get angry about the situation, about the person, about something. No? So that's anger, is the wanting to get angry is also there. Claudia, we are coming. When can I just finish with this occasional and then we're coming, okay? Then we have vitaka, initial application, thinking about the thing. Sustained application, vitaka vichara. Adhimokkha, being very determined that, yes, I have a reason to be angry, right? And viriya, well, being angry or having aversion also takes energy. So effort is also there. So all these 5 is there. So 1 is missing. Anyone knows? What is it?
It's joy.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Right. It's joy.
Piti.
So piti is missing. Right. So it's very obvious when we are having aversion, it's not possible to be joyful. No. So joy is not there. Okay. So, and then we have the 4 akusala universal here: moha, delusion, ahirika anotapa, moral shamelessness and fearlessness, the udacha, restlessness, and of course with dosa as well, right? So for the first Dosamūla citta, these are the Cetasikas that associate with it. Yes, Claudia.
When someone have remorse, for example, like which is the quality of the mind? The Cetasikas, they arise and ceasing faster, or there is more Cetasika in the mind that arise and ceasing, or what is the phenomenon? Why we feel remorse instead of, I don't know if I explain myself clearly.
Why we feel remorse instead of what?
When we feel, it doesn't really matter what we feel, like any kind of akusala, right? When this one happened, what happened in the mind?
Okay.
Like,
yes. Okay. Say, for example, in a situation, no? So let's say I'm thinking about something that I did before. Then, I was so bad, I said something not nice to a friend or something, okay? So I thought I feel remorse or regret about that. So at that time, the Dosamūla citta, it must be a Dosamūla citta because I'm having aversion towards what I have done, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that Dosamūla citta, it arises together with, I will jump 2 slides here. 1, 2. And to first kukucha. Okay, so the mind, besides having dosa, then it will also have kukucha.
Yes.
The object of what the mind is having aversion to at that moment is that I said something not nice to a friend, right?
Yeah.
So I'm regret about that situation. So therefore, kukucha cetasika here also associate with the dosamūla citta here.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
whenever a citta arise, whenever a dosamūla citta arise, it always arises together with all these cetasikas, all of them together. So they arise, they exist, and then they passes away. But of course, now we are talking about microscopically, each citta, right? Because in a snap of the finger or in a blink of an eye, billions of cittas together with this cetasika arise and passes away.
Yes.
So it needs a lot of mental processes for us to be thinking about the situation, to having regret about what we did. And so it takes a lot of mental processes. And in between, inside these mental processes, these mind door processes, if you still remember a brief introduction that we did in chapter 1 about mental processes, there is a stage, which is called javana, no? Those are the active moments, right? Because there are some non-active moments, then the mind is running, and then something happened, then the mind become active. And in those 7 javana moments, then in this case, then all of these 7 will be identical, dosamūla, 7 times. The same type of aversion-rooted consciousness will arise. Then this mental process will pass away. And then if we continue thinking about this, then again, another mental process arises. Again, dosamūla citta will arise in the javana moments. So repeat and repeat and repeat. If we are thinking about the situation for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, so all those times, a lot of dosamūla citta arise and passes away.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's go back a little bit. So, yes, Amar?
Yeah. So in the stream of like the javanas that you explained, right? Is there a possibility in between, like, the kusala citta may arise as well?
Yes, possible, but not in the same mental process.
No, not in the same mental process. I'm talking about a stream, right? There's a stream of, like, chittas going on, but there may be like a few chittas, maybe kusala as well, right?
Few processes, let's say.
Billions, yeah, we are talking about billions and billions of chitta stream, right? And it just cannot be just the dosa in all of them, right? There may be few chittas, like maybe like, in terms of billions, maybe a few thousand, maybe kusala as well, right?
Depends on the attitude of the person. So let's say if we are angry for 10 minutes. So in these 10 minutes, we are thinking about that situation. We are having remorse. Then if this person in between these 10 minutes, so one mental process with dosa, another mental process with dosa, another mental process with dosa, then suddenly he remember, oh, I should be mindful.
Right.
I should observe myself. Now anger is arising in the mind. So those mental processes are actually kusala. So it's trying to practice, right? So kusala mental processes arise, kusala mental process arise, kusala mental process arise. Then suddenly he forgot and he think about the story again. He said, oh, my friend was like this and like that. Okay, then dosa arise again and kusha arise again. Then he remember. Then he should, oh, next time, if there is this situation, I should say sorry to him or whatever. Then he thinks about something good. Yeah. Then maybe kusala arise and kusala process arise. Then again, he think, oh, I was so bad. And again, so it depends on the person, but it is possible.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Now, kusala javanas can arise, but not in the same mental process. So in the 7 javanas, it cannot be kusala 1 and then another 2 akusala and then another 3 kusala, like that. It's not possible. That 7 must be identical. But after this mental process finished, then kusala process it is possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. So let's continue with the associations. Okay, so let's see. Now, this Dosamūla citta, let's say an example. Let us say this person, and then he or she is feeling so boring, and there is nothing to do, and it's a Saturday, I'm not going out with my friends. So if it's just feeling like that, so it's Dosamūla citta here, then she's feeling boring. Okay, now if the situation is different, now she is seeing that about the success of another person, then she say, for just any example, let's say a colleague or someone that got promoted, and then she didn't get promoted, and then so she's having envy or jealousy in this time. So at that moment, it's also aversion, but this time because of the object is different, so Isa is associated with this Dosamūla citta because of the object, because of the situation and not the object. Now here we're coming to Maccariya. Maccariya is the case, like something that I think it's mine and I don't want anyone to have it. I don't want to share with anyone. So in that case, if the object is like that, then it would be dosa with Maccariya. Right? Okay, so then kukucha, we have already seen. So in this case, it will be dosa with kukucha. So we see that in the Dosamūla citta, it is possible that dosa associate with the other 3, but the other 3 themselves, they are not compatible with each other because of their nature and the objects are different. Until here, we okay? Yeah? All right. Okay, so let's take a look at the table itself. So it will also be be clear, because sometimes when we look at them side by side, then it's also very clear. So we see the hatred rooted consciousness, the first one and the second one, 7 universal sure. Then among the 6 occasionals, we have initial thought, sustained thought, determination, effort, and no joy, obviously, and the wish to do is there. Then unwholesome universal, the 4 of them sure. Then greed group, Lobha group, no, will not be there, not compatible. Then here, hatred, envy, stinginess, and remorse in the table, they are all actually put in the same, in like one same here, because it is possible, depend on situation. So it is not all the time there. Dosa must always be there, but like whether Isa or Maccariya or kukucha arise depends on the object and the situation. So it is possible, but not all the time. So this is also a variable one, like mana, right? Like conceit. Conceit also is like that. Sometimes can be there, maybe sometimes, or maybe not, depending. Okay. So for the first one, which is unprompted, then it associates with this Cetasikas. And when it is prompted, then it is possible with Slot and Topa, just like the greed-rooted consciousness that we discussed last week, same case. So can be or cannot be. So not all the time. Okay, so now let's take a look at one thing that I want to point out here, that we remember that all kind of cittas must always associate with some kind of mental feeling, right? So here we see Vedana. When we see that it is some Dosamūla citta, when we see this Vedana, what does it mean actually here? What Vedana? What kind of Vedana?
Domanassa.
Domanassa, right? Yes, Domanassa. So here, although Vedana is one Cetasika, it can be a different taste, no? Because we can experience the object with pleasant mental feeling, unpleasant mental feeling, mental neutrality also possible, no? So although it is only mentioned Vedana here, but we have to understand that with different types of cittas, this Vedana is different, right? different, meaning that it is only one Cetasika, but the way the mind is tasting or experiencing that object is different.